tax increase for the city of Greenville has a lot of people shaken up. Now comes word that the city council is considering a bond referendum that would potentially raise $28 million for more expenditures for the city, and that would be another 4-cent tax increase potentially, according to this morning's newspaper. The Greenville City Council has appointed local citizens to be part of a bond advisory committee to talk about this and to give the city council direction on what they think they need to do or what should be done, particularly when it comes to some of the needs of the city. And I said this morning, Dennis, I like this group. It looks like if I was picking a group of people to do this, I think this would be a good group to pick. Oh, yeah. I know just about everybody on here, including you. Well, Dennis Mitchell, who is the former city councilman here in Greenville, and now you were elected chairman of this group. Dennis Mitchell, live in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Have you not been abused enough yet? You have to keep getting back involved?
I'm starting to think that, too. I was wondering that after the meeting was over. I was like, what just really happened here?
I just said you're on the Greenville Utilities Commission. You're on this. You're going to be running this, which I'm sure is going to be pretty busy for several months here. You're probably busier now than you were when you were on the city council.
Slightly. I think so.
All right, let's start from the beginning. Why do we need a committee? What are the needs? This says $28 million is on the table. We've heard $10 million. We've heard, the need is for roads mostly, and then you hear, well, we have a lot of buildings in disrepair and those kind of things. The city just raised 2 cents tax increase. There was money put aside by the council when you were on it for roads. People are confused. I think you're the perfect guy to kind of explain what's going on.
And I think that was a little bit, you were able to see a little bit of that last night. And I think this bond commission actually, because you said the type of people on it, is going to answer a lot of questions too, because a lot of people were asking a lot of good questions last night. Just surrounding the need for it. Do we even need it? And that was clear last night. So this bond
meaning, do we need a bond referendum?
Do we need a bond referendum? Right. So a lot of people were asking that question. Do we need it?
And I imagine the other question is, would it pass if you put it out there?
That question was asked last night too. Do we need it? Will it pass? And if we do need it, is it as large as we're going to send to the city council, or should it be larger? So I think this bond commission is really, we can really be there forever if we wanted to, because we're going to ask a lot of questions and really put everything out there of what we should really give the city council. And then the city council doesn't have to accept it when we give it to them in the end, either way.
So, what is the major need? Is it streets we need to worry about? What do we need a bond for?
We're going to go through all that month by month. We started to get into the roads a little, probably too much in detail last night at the very first meeting, but I think that's going to take a lot of discussion. There's a lot of questions surrounding that, like you talked about the $4 million that was allocated when I was on city council. A lot of questions were asked about that not being spent yet. The city was talking about they're doing a study. They did an assessment, which is complete on the roads analysis, but now they got to go to GUC and the cable company to figure out which roads they're planning on tearing up before they decide which roads to pave. So that's taking forever. And the matter is, the roads that they showed us with the 10 point something million dollars they allocated in the bonds. I mean, that's really, once you repave the entire Arlington Boulevard, you probably pretty much used all your money already, the $14 million there. So does this bond package even get us to where we need to be anyway? So there's a lot of questions surrounding roads, And if we do allocate the money, how long is it going to take for the roads to start? That was very clear. I think this bond commission, if they do decide to go with bond, they're going to put deadlines and timelines on a lot of this stuff.
Is it your opinion that that this committee can work fast enough to propose to the city council to actually get something on the ballot this November?
If the committee makes that decision from the onset, I think first the committee got to come to a conclusion what its charge is, because it was wide open. The city council just pretty much said, this committee get together, you're gonna come up with a bond. We were confused by the fact that the city staff already gave the city council a bond for one. So are we not going by that bond? She said, well, you can go by that bond, or you can come with a brand new one. Now, if we come with a brand new one, the knowledge base is wide on this commission, so it's going to take a lot of time for people to get acclimated on what the city really needs. So hopefully we'll be there 4 months. But this committee can go on forever. But I mean, my goal is what I brought up last night to try to make it quicker. Let's go by what the city council was given. You know, if there are any tweaks that need to be made, if staff got any other recommendations, because that was clear. Staff said that we gave this bond package based on city council's guidance. This is not necessarily what we would have gave for a bond package had we had free reign to come up with a bond package for the city of Greenville.
Let's clarify a couple of the things that you've thrown out and that we've talked about this morning. And again, a good resource on this stuff is Terry Boardman, who has become very active in digging. Terry is a local citizen, a local CPA who's been digging into the city books. He's not elected. He's not appointed. He's just a kind of a citizen who's concerned about what's going on and he's created his own blog by sending an email, or in some cases 3 or 4 emails a day out to the media and to other people in city government and just citizens in Greenville. He brings up a good point. This $4 million, we keep hearing that roads are crumbling. But, when you were on the Greenville City Council, I remember you and Max Joyner and others saying, let's start to put money aside for roads. And you started doing that years ago, and you built up a fund that ended up with $4 million for road repair in it. If the roads are crumbling, why have we not spent that money?
I mean, that's the question of the day. We started getting into that last night. We actually talked about this with Terry the other day on the Greenville Grid. That's the question of the day, and that's one of the things I wrote down because I didn't want to dominate the meeting last night is they keep on saying the roads are critical. Well, define critical. If critical means they're going to fail tomorrow, 2 months from now, a year from now, because it's, like you said, it's taking a very long time to spend the money that we have. And that's the concern going forward. And Terry brings a logical point is, if we can't spend the money that we were already given, how can we ask the voters to give more money? What's the confidence in the voters that this money is going to be used and spent in the amount of time that it needs to be spent?
Yeah, I think the city is going to have to answer that question, why that money has not been spent. And I know that, I just remember when Thomas Langston Road was being expanded from Memorial Drive over to Evans Street. It just took forever to get that road built. It just seems like there's some paralysis in getting streets done in Greenville.
And that was kind of a little frustration last night. And I was actually planning on sending an email on it. I know we're planning on having Kevin Mulligan, the Public Works Director on the Greenville Grid next week, is when he was asked, the timeline, from talking to Greenville Utilities and the cable company to figure out about the roads, they didn't have any answer for the end date. And I think that's important. We really need to know when they're going to spend that money. There's a lot of money still left in there. If roads are at the failure that the city says they are, then they need to get to the payment and start repaving them.
All right, now, Abby Bennett's story on the front page of the Greenville Reflector this morning, the first paragraph is, Greenville's City Council began in May to consider a proposed $28 million general obligation bond, which potentially would require a 4-cent tax increase to address the needs in the city. Now, like I do, Dennis, people are tired of hearing that word tax increase. They're tired of hearing that. And when you say another 4 cents on top of 2 cents, you're talking about potentially 6% tax increase in a year. That's not going. People are not going to vote themselves a 4-cent tax increase. So what's in that $28 million besides roads? What else are we looking at trying to do with this money?
There's some parks in there.
New parks,
upgrades to existing facilities. There's a public safety component in there, which I'm going to ask questions about because it really looks like a little bit of maintenance on the police department, not really anything that's needed to benefit the safety of the public, just some maintenance. And they just created a maintenance fund. So is it possible that maintenance fund can fund those things? As well as Terry brought up this morning, and was something that I wrote down and asked a question later about, is the fire truck.
Is there a fire truck in this?
There's two fire trucks, a fire truck and a brush truck, whatever a brush truck is. But Terry brought it up. You got $7 million in the vehicle replacement fund.
I know that's the other frustrating thing about this is that if we're talking about raising taxes to pay for things like fire trucks, isn't that what we were just told we had to do?
Yeah. So why?
Because and then we found out that there's $7 million in a vehicle replacement fund that hasn't been spent. And how much money do we need for vehicles?
Well, I mean, I'm glad Terry's asking those questions. So hope we get some answers for things like that. So that's really a penny that you can knock off if you use that maintenance fund to work with the police department and buy the fire trucks with the vehicle replacement fund. That's a penny going already there. But one question that came up last night that I think is going to be good that comes out of this is people really asking about the return on investment, the economic development benefit that the city council did not have in this in their bond package. So maybe something good can come out of it. Like the group is well diverse. Like I said, we don't even know if we're going to send the city council back what they gave us, send them back something new, or say no bond at all. Hopefully that'll be fleshed out in the next couple of months. We're going to meet twice a month. So, I mean, everyone's committed to really get in there and really find out what's going on and try to get something to them. Because one thing was brought up, even if we put this on the November ballot in, 2015 or 2014 this year? No, we can't do it this year, so it has to be 2015 because of the time frame. That it will take till spring of the following year to even get the money, and then you go to city contracting process. So you're looking maybe about late 2016, 2017 before the city even starts to spend money on some of these things.
Well, if you move this bond referendum to next year, it would come in the same year that the city council's got to run for re-election. That would be some interesting drama,
wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? So I'm all for it being next year.
You're hoping that happens, right?
Yeah, but that's the one thing. If we do that, we have to have it. We had a goal of getting to the city council by January planning session. Mm-hmm. But you got to look at the dynamics on the city council. I suspect no matter what we give them, they're going to change it or to make sure they benefit that whichever direction city council is going in.
So if your goal is to get it to the city council by January, then it sounds like that everybody's pretty much in agreement that it's not going to be put on the November ballot.
Not in this year.
So is that a done deal? Because I know the mayor mayor originally said he thought it ought to be on this year's ballot.
There is no way possible it can get on this year's ballot unless we passed it last night, because the question had to be written up. I think the local government commission has to approve it and everything like that. So there's nowhere possible. It wasn't even discussed to be on the ballot for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. For this November.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to thank you and the others. And again, I'll read the list of names here because it's a good group. You've got Will Franklin, Bill Clark from Bill Clark Homes, Kelly Barnhill, Tawanda Steinberg from BB&T, yourself, Alberta Blanco, who you used to work with, who is now with Lawrence Bears Group, LBA, John Tart, Terry Williams, Tony Parker, Ashley Breedlove, Tammy Purdue, Bianca Schoenman, Tony Corey, Michael Overton, great group of people to advise the city council and the citizens on what to do about this bond. Let's back up a little bit. You've been vocal. I've heard you on Greenville Grit a couple of times, and you've been doing a great job of helping people understand what's going on in city government on that show. Greenville Grit's become a great show, I believe, for folks who want to keep up what's going on in the city. Oh, yeah. And then the mayor was on last week saying, there was enough money if we dug deep enough into the budget. We didn't have to raise taxes 2 cents. Now, having come off the city council recently, last year, what is your opinion of that? Did the city council knee jerk and were they too quick to try to raise taxes?
Oh, absolutely. Pretty much taxes was raised due to an unknown. Right now the state legislature and the governor said they're going to do everything they can to make sure they replace the money the cities are going to lose from the privilege tax fee that everyone has. So, and by
the way, let's be clear about that privilege tax. Greenville wasn't losing any revenue. Mm-hmm. They were losing projected revenue because they were raising the business license privilege tax, which is what the General Assembly had told them not to do.
And then that don't even take effect. I think the 2016. So that's the unknown. So
right. So the tax increase goes in right now, but that money is not even budgeted for the budget until 2016.
So like I said in Greenville is already going to have a surplus of funding this year because they know that their budget is based upon the old numbers. So we'll see with that. And again, I think everyone's looking at it, and Terry's bringing up a point of where these money is stashed in different funds. There's additional $2 million stash aside from the rainy day fund balance for a catastrophe catastrophe fund that I think is set aside for $2 million. It's like $2,300,000. There's a $1.5 million surplus with the health fund that they have. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways in this time of uncertainty. City council could have said, "Hold on, let's just pass this for right now and see what happens in next year before we raise taxes." I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, and we talked about it before. I mean, we created a budget process when we were on there that was very detailed, very intense. 13 meetings, going through workshop by workshop with the city departments. City council pretty much got their budget on that Monday night with a new tax increase, added another tax increase, and passed it on Thursday.
Now, what you're going to hear, and what we've already begun to hear from Calvin Mercer and some of the city council people, Calvin in his blog earlier this week basically pointed the finger at you and Max Joyner and others who were on the council before, saying you guys deferred these things and weren't working on trying to get these things repaired and done in the city, and that's the reason why we had to have the tax increase. I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
As everyone well knows, that the city council of last year is the one who actually started working on infrastructure, fixed the deficit, the projected $20 million deficit with the sanitation department. We fixed that. We worked on the roads. We fixed the city software issue, 20-year-old software issue. So the city council of last year is probably the only council in the last 2 years who actually took a charge at infrastructure. I look at the other direction. The reason why we're in this situation, because they raised the taxes for the maintenance fund, which was infrastructure issues. Calvin Mercer and the councils previous to this ignored maintenance. They built brand new stuff and never built in how to pay for it. And that's why the city is in a situation now to raise the taxes for the maintenance fund, because they didn't take care of those infrastructure issues. City council of last year, I mean, it's documented, it's out there, is the only one that actually addresses those maintenance issues. When we tried to, they're just not spending the money on them right now.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for your willingness to serve on this bond advisory committee and to chair it. And I think you'll do a great job of that. You've got probably as much knowledge about these things as anybody. And the question right now is not who knows what and how do we get to the truth and what do we really need to do? And
it's going to be interesting.
And we should say, for people who are reading that newspaper article this morning, it's not an all or none situation. The fact that there'd be a $28 million general obligation bond, in my opinion, is ludicrous. I don't see how in the world you'd ever get that passed, and so I don't think your committee is going to come back with that suggestion. So you might come back with $10 million now or $6 million, or you guys could come back and say zero, $28 million, or somewhere in between.
Or give a long-term 10 to 15-year plan. Do this now, do this 5 years from now, and do this 5 years after that. So
right.
A lot of things can come out of it.
Well, I'm glad you're there, and I appreciate your willingness to serve. How much are you getting paid to serve on this committee?
Absolutely nothing.
It's a thankless job, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for being here this morning. It's great talking to you. Thank you, Dennis.
It.
Good to see you, man.
Yes.